Today, we're taking a look at a shakeup in the federal government, from deep cuts to federal benefits, the firing of federal employees, some agencies scrambling to use automation just to survive. And this impacts everyone from the taxpayer to the federal employee to the services that are provided to the American public. How will it impact you? Let's get into it. Congress is pushing a budget reconciliation bill that could slash federal benefits by $50 billion over the next decade. They advanced 6 provisions, big ones, from lowering the value of the pension to increasing the contributions that the federal employee has to make towards their pension. All of this makes being a federal employee less desirable. Now, we've talked about going from high 3 to high 5. That's already in play. But there's something else I really want to focus on, and that's something called at-will proposal. So the way that this would work is the government would ask you, would you like to be an at-will employee? Circle yes or no. Now, why would anyone circle yes? Why would anyone forfeit their civil service protections and be an at-will employee? If given the choice, why would you make that decision? Well, the reason you would make that decision is how much money you're able to bring home a month, because that would be impacted by the answer you give. If you say you want to be at will, then you're going to contribute 4.4% to your pension. But if you wanted full civil service protections, you would have to bump that number up by 5. That's right, you would have to contribute 9.4% of your salary to the first pension. And the way that this would work is it would be for new employees, right? So you hire a new worker in, and then they have 12 months of probation. At the end of their probationary period, that is the decision point. That is the time where you would have to tell them yes or no. And if you do not tell them, or if you refuse to tell them, by default, you would be an at-will employee. So by default, you would contribute 4.4%, and that's what pretty much everyone's contributing. If you joined the government within the last 10 years, chances are you're contributing 4.4%. Now, this isn't in the bill yet, but it is a proposal. Another proposal would actually charge federal employees to file an appeal. Whenever they wanted to appeal to the MSPB, it would cost them money. Now, this is a wild idea. Why would federal workers want to appeal in the first place? Well, here's some reasons. First, you have protection against unlawful termination or discipline. Second is due process rights. Third is whistleblower protections. And then fourth is performance-based action appeals. So let's say you need help in one of those areas. You want to file an appeal. How much would that cost you out of pocket? Well, if you do it right now, it's free. But under this proposal, it would be $350 per appeal. So if you're appealing a couple of times, you can see how the money could dramatically increase. It stacks on top of each other. Now, this would be in effect 3 months after the bill is signed. This bill is looking at the earliest. They're going to sign it sometime in July, but it could be all the way until October. But let's say this gets slipped in there, this gets approved. It would take effect 3 months later. It also says in there that if you win the appeal, you get your money back. So why is the government willing to do this? You know why. They're willing to do it because most appeals get rejected. Most appeals get dismissed. It's roughly 90% of all claims are dismissed or denied. So they want to cut down on the amount of times people are actually appealing to the board. Now, let's just take a quick snapshot of what's happening here with this bill. First, contribution 4.4% for all by 2027. High 5 pension change. This will affect retirees after 2027. The bill could be signed by July 4th. Proposed savings $50 billion over 10 years. Now let's look at some of the ways that agencies are making efforts to push their employees out of their agencies. So this is either by offering early retirement, separation payments, or the DRP, the Deferred Resignation Program. Apparently, you had over 10,000 healthcare workers at the Veteran Affairs. They thought this was a great idea. Maybe it was time for a pivot, a career change, a life change. They said, let's do it. This includes more than 1,300 nurses, 800 medical support assistants, and 200 physicians. But very few of these folks will actually qualify because employees that have direct or indirect care to veterans, they're largely exempt from the program. So why were they even offered? That's a good question. The VA press secretary said that approvals for direct care staff would only happen under very limited circumstances. So why would these professionals want to leave the public service? Why would they be so quick to give up their government job? There's 3 main reasons: fear, burnout, and uncertainty. In addition to that, you had an executive order recently come out that was trying to strip away union protections from healthcare workers. So obviously they're feeling the pressure. They're feeling that they're not desired, they're not wanted. So they're going to go somewhere that values them. Now, what's happening at VA is really important. It's a large agency. It's a big agency. They need people. They need people today. They need people yesterday. They need people tomorrow. You go on usajobs.gov, it's one of the biggest agencies that's still hiring. There's close to 3,000 open jobs here today. These jobs, they're largely in the medical and public health job series. Who's applying to these jobs? The answer is less and less people. You're having a smaller and smaller pool of applicants that you can select from. And do you think highly qualified individuals are still in there? Probably not. They probably have gone to other opportunities. What you have left is probably not the most highly desirable candidates that you want to pick from. Very few people are looking at usajobs.gov, are looking for a career in the public sector. Not right now, and you can't really blame them at all. From the headlines, from the direction, from the energy that's in the room, you understand this is not the time. This is not the time. Even though they have a need, they have a desire, they have the want, they have to fill the mission, right? The mission is critical. You have to get the mission done. How are they going to do it? At what point do you augment with contractors? Even from a healthcare perspective, maybe you need to start leveraging contracting support in order to get the mission done. Or even they could look at, let's say, artificial intelligence. They're already using it. They could use it more. The Defense Information Systems Agency, or DISA, they're turning to automation and artificial intelligence to survive the workforce reductions. They've lost thousands of workers. Jeff Marshall, a director over there, said, "If I have less people, how do I do this?" The clear answer is automation, and they're currently running an exercise over there to use generative AI to find solutions, like streamlining tasks or managing cloud services. The agency is also training workers to be technicians of the future, whatever that means. That sounds like they're cross-training them on different responsibilities, or maybe they're teaching them how to use, observe, and evaluate the AI, how to leverage AI better. DISA also announced that a $9 billion contract is slightly behind schedule due to staffing shortages. They're still gathering requirements and seeing how they can best use AI. This agency is not alone when it comes to artificial intelligence. It has been seeing increased use throughout all agencies in the federal government. Let's just look at some of the top ones. The Department of Justice had a 1,500% increase from last year in AI. DHS had a 136% increase. HHS had a 66% increase. And the VA has 229 use cases for AI. Of course, you have the IRS and the Social Security Administration. They've both been reporting using AI more and more. Now, at first, it was pitched that AI would be like a co-pilot. It would assist the worker. It could free up time so the worker could focus on different areas. But now that we're in the middle of these dramatic workforce cuts, well, now AI has the opportunity to see if it can actually replace. And it has been in a lot of situations, AI has been taking on more and more responsibility that would normally be assigned to that worker. Now, either way you look at it, it's a mess over there right now. It's a mess with the federal workforce as a whole, all agencies. The way that we as a country have been treating the federal workforce has been painting it as a very negative place to work, as an undesirable, as a place that you don't even want to consider. Now, before all of this, a lot of young people coming out of university, they would never consider actually working for the federal government. That was not top of mind. If you look at all the surveys from 2022, 2023, a lot of people were not thinking about entering into the government. Now, why would you do it? Not just now, look in 2026, look at 2027. At what point do you think the public is going to be more open to actually joining the federal workforce? So there are major concerns to include loss of institutional knowledge, an over-reliance of contractors, weakened emergency response, and economic ripple effects. If you have a small business right now in Kansas City, or maybe Huntsville, Alabama, do you think your small business will be more profitable this year and next year? Will you gain more revenue? The chances are probably not, because there's a large percentage of that population that are federal workers that were solidly in the middle class, earning a middle class income and serving the public. Now you have thousands of those jobs gone. Look at Oklahoma, tens of thousands of jobs there gone. That's a very rural area. So the small businesses in the area, they're going to suffer. And as they suffer and they have less revenue, they're going to hire less people. And that's the ripple effect that we're going to be seeing throughout the country. People in those areas are going to have less discretionary income to spend on products and services. Now, the future of the federal government will largely come down to the budgets the agencies have. If the agency has a decent budget, they can hire still. They can update their systems. They can improve the service to the public. But if they do not have a decent budget, if they suffer billions in cuts to their budget, they're not going to be able to do much of anything. So a budget request was just revealed not too long ago, and it will have some agencies with billions added to the budget, and other agencies will be losing billions. If you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.